I've heard of a place out here where I live. It's on one of the back roads of the Alaskan New Growth Forests in one of these valleys. They say that if you drive down this road on a day where the sun is shining so brightly as to make everything appear black and white, then you might come across a girl walking alongside of the road. She's said to be easy to recognize, because whether it is summer or winter, she's always wearing a heavy wool overcoat and a set of oversized headphones, like those big skull candy headphones you can find in the stores. According to the story, if you drive up alongside her and roll down the window, you might hear her singing a song some people say around here. Some people around here say, "Is Rezo Ceres's gloomy Sunday?" If you interrupt her, asking the question before she's finished the song, it's said that her answer will be, I can't remember. And then in the next town you enter, you'll be arrested for the kidnap and murder of this girl. However, if you were to wait for her to finish, and the next question being, when did it last snow? And this is to be asked no matter what season it is, she will give you one of 3 possible answers. If she says Thursday, you will continue to drive ahead as if nothing has happened, but that you'll be able to see and control your actions. It will be through a thick fog, as if you were asleep. You will live out the rest of your life in this empty dream state, and when you die, your soul will be condemned to black emptiness. If the answer is today, then you are far more fortunate. You will continue on to your destination without event, and while returning home, finally your greatest wish has been realized. However, if the answer is last Friday, then may whatever entity controls their fates have mercy on you. You will vanish for over a year. No one will have the slightest clue where you've gone, and in your family, in despair, will give you up for dead. Then on a Friday during the following year's snowmelt, your body will be found hanging from an old black spruce in one of these swamps. Your face will be eaten away, and your body in such a state of decay that you'll only be identified by your dental records. Your spirit, however, will be trapped, forced to walk that road every day when the sun is so bright that everything seems black and white. How do I know this? I'd never done it myself, only heard the stories, but I've also lived up here for most of my life. I can tell you this honestly. 6 years ago, essentially was a little boy. Then they found my sister. I've always been a fan of MortalKombat games, especially the MortalKombat Project games, but not anymore. In fact, I hate even hearing about the game. One day, I was surfing the web for some games for my emulators, and I happened to come upon a game called MortalKombat.exe. I'm not going to give out the link for the safety of you and your computer. But anyways, I thought it would be boring and dull. But when I looked at the RAM it took up, it said it takes 2 gigabytes. I thought to myself that the game would be interesting, it would be exciting, but I've never downloaded a Mortal Kombat game that took so much memory. So I clicked on the download link and started downloading the game. Surprisingly, it took over 4 hours for the entire game to download. Download then finished, but that's when things started to get weird. The download box popped up, letting me know that the download was finished, so I clicked run, and my laptop screen burst into static and started playing a frequently high-pitched sound. Then the laptop literally went black. Then I grunted to myself in anger, trying to turn my laptop back on. After a few tries, my laptop finally turned on. The same as it was before, except there was the game on my desktop. I thought to myself that the laptop was probably just crashed from a large download. So, I clicked the game and I started playing. There was no music playing. The screen showed Goro and there were the words arcade, versus, practice, options, and exit. So I clicked arcade and the Mortal Kombat 1 arcade theme burst out of my speakers violently, nearly shaking up the whole house. So I muted my computer, thinking nothing of the sound, and what came up I couldn't believe. The character selection screen came up showing a total of 276 characters. I was amazed. This was the best Mortal Kombat ever. So I selected one of my favorite characters, Chameleon. Only there were 6 versions of him. So I chose the Mortal Kombat Trilogy Chameleon. There was a total of 500 stages, only making the game better. So I chose my favorite place to fight, the Mortal Kombat 1 pit. When I selected the stage, Shao Kahn's voice said, "Good choice, Lane." 2 things popped up into my head. 1. How did he know my name? And 2. How was his voice coming up even though my speakers were muted? Then the loading screen came up. I had to fight Hydro, a Mortal Kombat project character. So I started fighting and finally got to the point where Shao Kahn's voice said, "Finish him." Then a box popped up showing a list of names. One of my friends' names, Jordan. One was my friend's name, Jordan. So I clicked Jordan just for fun, and then another box came up saying, "Choose Fatality." Then a box came up saying, "Fatality 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and Stage Fatality." I thought that it was awesome that every character had 10 fatalities and a stage finisher, so I chose Stage Fatality, and I clicked the bottom, and when I clicked Stage Fatality, it showed my character Chameleon uppercutting Hydro, causing him to fall into the pit spikes to the bottom. When he hit the ground, very realistic blood shot up out of him as he screamed in agony. But Hydro's scream nearly broke my speakers as it was so loud. I was angry that I kept hearing noises from the game as I muted my computer, and confused as to why the noises were so loud. Then the words, "Chameleon wins! Fatality!" came up on the screen. There was no Shao Kahn saying the name and fatality. Then Shao Kahn's voice came up saying, "You will never win, Lane." And I mean loud then. A bunch of pop-ups saying, MortalKombat.exe is not responding came up, crashing my laptop. I was frightened. I tried to turn my laptop back on, but it would not power on. I thought it must have been a virus. Angrily, I put up my laptop, thinking to myself that I could try and fix it in the morning. Since I'm good with computers, I then went to bed, thinking to sleep, but still thinking about why the game knew my name. I woke to a ringing noise. It was my iPhone 4. I looked at my phone to check what time it is. 2:30 a.m. I then answered the phone, only to hear my friend's mom crying. I asked her to tell me what was wrong when the siren sound in the back room was. She told me the sirens were police and ambulance sirens, and Jordan was dead. He had several large holes in his body. I bolted downstairs, trying to turn on my laptop. Then a message box came up saying, "Thank you for playing, Lane. But I told you, you will never win." I was screaming, crying in horror and despair. As several message boxes popped up saying never. And the worst thing ever happened to me. A bunch of pictures of dead adults, children, and babies popped up on the screen. And a message box popped up saying, "Look at him." And a picture of my friend Jordan was shown. His eyes gouged out, his intestines popped out laying on the floor. He also had several gory holes in his body. The screen went black and a Mortal Kombat font came up saying, "Lane wins. Fatality." The screen then went black. It had been 4 months since the incident, and I am traumatized by it, just like anyone else would be. The police found the man who killed Jordan. Oddly, he's the creator of the game I downloaded. Yesterday I was flipping through the channels on my TV and I saw Jordan's killer in court on a TV show. I had to watch. After about 5 minutes, the judge asked him what he had to say before he was sentenced to death. He responded by looking at the camera and saying, "Lane, you will never win," violently laughing as the bailiff carried him away. I heard rumors about a video game console released in the early 90s that promised to be the most immersive games imaginable. It bore a strong resemblance to the Super Nintendo, except it had no cartridge slot, no reset button, and only one controller port. It was released in extremely low quantity. It's possible that less than 50 were ever available. People I talked to who remembered it from their childhood only mentioned the first game on the list. Other games were included on the console, but this one was, they say, a perfect game. Lifelike graphics and sound, even by today's standards, an endless supply of new, fun content, solid gameplay, a controller responsive to the point of precognition they recall, and the single-player port was all that was necessary. The NPCs in the game were smart enough to be just as entertaining as real players. It was quite literally a game nobody wanted to stop playing, and the people I interviewed all remarked somewhat bitterly that the parents forcibly dragged them away from the television set after a few days of continuous playing and threw the console in the trash. I was intrigued by what I knew so far, so I went looking for more people to remember this relic of gaming history. I searched high and low for anybody besides the handful of people I had already talked to, and after a month of painstaking investigation, I found two independent mechanics. They had a much harder time remembering the specifics of the console, but I was able to jog their memory by repeating what I had in my notes. I could see their eyes light up a little, remembering the perfect game. Both of them said that's not all it could do. Both of them said the interface was complete, and I inquired what exactly they meant. After a few days, apparently the game started having a positive physiological effect. It was as if the actions done in-game were giving the player exercise, and the player was able to go without food and water, seemingly drawing sustenance through the items collected in the levels. However, after a couple of days, they played this game continuously for a week by this point, they started feeling the damage done to their in-game player character. The pain was small at first, only a slightly forceful reminder to be more attentive. After a short while, though, the pain started getting intense, and the weariness of the constant action was taking its toll on them. The game was still perfect. It was better than any high you can imagine, one of them said, but it was becoming physically exhausting to play. But they couldn't tear themselves away from it. I was almost done with one level, and I was fighting a boss to use a whip. The other interviewee said, I remember the whip was a one-hit kill. I just took the level over. But I remember the searing pain when it lashed me across my arm. And then I buttoned his sleeve on his shirt, and I could see a scar twisting around his arm. Yeah, it was getting that bad. Both of them said their parents returned to the house 9 days into the marathon game session, and forcibly dragged them away from the console and took them to the emergency room. The console was gone when they got back home. Just thrown away like all the others, I bet. I could not find any other people who even knew about what I was talking about. The rumors had stopped there, and I was left with incomplete knowledge about where I could even find one of these consoles. A sense of dread settled in the back of my mind, though, as I felt it was necessary to pour through the newspaper archives from that period. I was trying all sorts of variations on bootleg console in an online database search. When I finally stumbled upon what was shocking, there were 15 separate instances of people found dead in their homes, sitting in front of their TVs with a bootleg-looking console hooked up to it. They had a butchered appearance, most commonly, with some found in pieces, and autopsies revealed that the internal organs had dissolved. One article remarked that the TV was just displaying static, and they could not get the console power on. Local officials tried contacting